Hey everyone, welcome back to the FYE Talks podcast. I'm Alexis Hutchinson, and I'm here with a super special guest today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. But today we're talking transfer and what you should know and kind of how to be navigating that plane when you're not sure where to go or what to do, or what even your options might be.
Yes, thank you, Alexis. My name is Courtney Sutherland, and I work with Bellevue University here on ECTC's campus, and we are a transfer option here in E-Town for students to check out. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about our new partnership in the entire state of Kentucky. And this is National Transfer Week, so there's a lot of good things out there for you guys to look at once you're finished at ECTC.
Awesome. So we're really excited to have Courtney on the show today and to kind of be talking about transfer and how that impacts students and kind of what are some of the biggest pitfalls you've seen that students run into when they're trying to transfer?
The biggest pitfalls that I typically notice are students don't realize what pathway they're on. Mm-hmm. So whenever you're at ECTC or really any other KCTCS school, you're one of three students. You're either an associate in arts, an associate in science, or an associate in applied science. This matters because a lot of students don't know which one they are. If you talk to anyone here on campus and they say, oh, I'm a psychology major, or oh, I'm a CIT major, typically they're in an AAS pathway, and some 4 years do not accept that type of pathway. They might accept some credits, but typically you're going to have to backtrack and take a few extra ones with them. That's some of the pitfalls that I notice. A lot of times students will look at tuition rate and they'll try to think, oh, this is how much it's going to cost for me, but they won't actually reach out to the school to see what it's really going to cost them with scholarships and with discounts. Mm-hmm. So I think just making sure that they meet up with their transfer coordinator is going to benefit them completely.
Absolutely. And so your institution offers a really great deal, and so I'd like to hear more about that if you don't mind.
Yes. So although COVID has been awful and crazy, there was one good thing that came out of that. We started a new partnership with the entire state of Kentucky. Currently, before all this happened, we were in E-Town, we were in Lexington, and we were in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. But whenever our people on main campus in Nebraska spoke with the KCTCS systems office, they devised a plan to help all 16 KCTCS schools. So now I'm actually going to be covering about 7 of those schools out in western Kentucky. And with that, they have lowered the tuition rate for those students. So it really cuts off a few $1,000s.
Well, that's amazing.
That. Yes, mm-hmm. And they don't have to do anything. They just have to live in Kentucky. So
check.
Yes, got that. So that's helped a lot of students as well. And then, too, by working with me, I can waive their application fee, which is typically $50. And I kind of break that down as that's $50 that they could use at Chick-fil-A or something.
Hey,
so
always winning.
Yes, if you convert it to food, you're losing out on some food applying to some of these schools. Mm-hmm. So we try to save students money. And also, I have a lot of upfront conversations with students because I want them to know exactly what they're getting into. So if I know that a student, maybe they don't have a computer at home, maybe they aren't used to online classes or are not successful in those classes, I'll let them know straight up, we are a completely online program for them to look at. Maybe this isn't the best option for them right now. I know a lot of students are struggling with COVID where they've had to move over to an online format, and we're able to work around that because we've been doing online classes since the 1990s.
Amazing.
Yes, a lot of schools actually said, oh, I don't know if that's going to work at that time, and now obviously we were on the right track.
Well, I was going to say, it looks like you all came out the winners.
Yes, we did, and I think too with COVID, it's kind of pushed a lot of people into an online format that they probably weren't prepared to do just yet.
True, very true.
So with us, we're already ahead of the game with that, and we're adding different formats for our classes to fit those students who maybe aren't ready for an all-online program, but they still want to do something more flexible with their schedule.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the distinct benefits you know from working with a completely online program? Kind of what are the top 10 greatest reasons to go to, an online school?
I would say, I don't know if I can list 10 on there. I think that there's just so many that they can look at, but the typical ones that I hear students mention about our programs is the flexibility. So
Gotcha.
They have obligations. You have family life, you have a job, you have literally everything else going on, especially right now with how the pandemic is playing out. We understand that, so students don't have to change their schedule to fit us. Mm-hmm. A lot of our classes are asynchronous, so they don't have to meet at a certain time during the week. But we do have some programs that are synchronous, where if they do want that in-class format, they can do that, and we have a professor on main campus with a class that they can talk to. So if they do need a little bit more of hand-holding or just kind of a little bit better, easier transition into online, we can help them with that. And another part of it too is I feel like online classes had a stigma a few years ago, like probably a decade ago. People were like, oh, don't take online classes because they look at them sometimes as not legit. But we are just as accredited as ECTC. That's the big thing a lot of students don't look into when they're considering schools is the accreditation.
Absolutely.
So I know ECTC is accredited through SACS, Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. We are accredited through the Higher Learning Commission, which where we're in the Midwest, we can't be part of the Southern Association. So we're part of the sister program in the Midwest. So that helps a lot of students to understand that their credits are going to come to us. They're going to graduate with us, and their degree is going to be just as legit as what they could get at ECTC.
And so that's definitely a concern. I mean, we just recently, you see all the news articles about kind of those phony colleges that prey on students. And so it sounds like what you're offering is exactly the same as you would get at U of L, UK, WKU, and it's completely online, which, you know, if you have children, if you have limited transportation, things like that, and if you're just trying to keep safe with COVID and all the craziness that's been going on now, that sounds like a perfect option for meeting the needs of a dynamic life, or a life that maybe is a little bit non-traditional.
Yes, and I agree with that because I feel like, too, the household for a lot of people in America is changing. Like, a lot of times you're going to have both the mother and father working multiple jobs just to make ends meet.
Truth.
And we understand that. So another part of that, too, is just making sure that we can meet them where they're at, understanding that they have other obligations that they need to look through. And I think that it's going to work with really any student to check out.
Awesome. Yeah. And so how many students do you see in a semester, do you think?
So I've worked for Bellevue for a year and a half. So really I had my first real year last year. So it was really just getting the brand out there at that point because people saw a purple school and they're like, what is this? So helping them to understand who Bellevue is and what we do, that was a big part of last year. And then COVID kind of threw off everything after that point. But I would say typically my enrollments per semester, they go up through referrals. So people like yourself, other advisors on campus, they're the ones who kind of vet a student and see what do they need, and then they see how different schools will fit it. And that's been where a lot of my good students have come from, are from advisors referring us to them.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's been huge. And then, too, like I'll typically, my IQs, like per year, they could be up in the hundreds a lot of times, and it's just me working this area, and that's before we've even reached out to any of the other KCTCS schools for the partnership. So I feel like it's going to probably quadruple.
Oh, absolutely, and especially when people figure out the great flexibility that's offered through Bellevue.
Yes.
I mean, you just can't beat being able to get an accredited degree at an affordable price on your schedule. I mean, what institution really offers that?
Right.
As far as, a 4-year school.
Yes.
And so that's phenomenal. I mean, what are some tips you would give? I'm kind of curious, transfer is kind of like that next step. Everybody is aware they're going to transfer if they plan on transferring, but I feel like there's just this gap in what you need to do before you transfer. So a lot of people, they pass their classes, they get to that point and they're like, yes, now I am going on. And it's like, oh, well, you need to do this, this, and this. And they're kind of like, what? So what are kind of some tips you could give to get ready to transfer before you get to that crucial moment where you're scrambling to get transcripts and scrambling to figure this and that out, and just kind of streamline that process?
Yes, that is an awesome question because a lot of students think that they need to talk to myself or other transfer advisors their last semester. And to be real, I was that same student. So I understood, like, you procrastinate as much as you can and then you decide when you get there. But the problem with that is sometimes you're going to miss deadlines. Sometimes there's applications that are due at a certain time, and some of those deadlines are in the fall before you transfer the next year. So looking at things like that, thankfully Bellevue is a pretty much rolling application. I've had students apply 2 weeks before the semester started, and we've been able to get them in.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility. And two, some of our classes, we have different formats. So we have traditional and we have accelerated, and the accelerated cohorts actually start staggered throughout the year. So they don't have a typical fall or spring start.
Gotcha.
They could start every month depending on how popular the program is. So some students I have that maybe waited too late, they can be pushed back to the next month and they don't have to waste a whole semester waiting to enroll with us.
Gotcha.
So that's a big thing. But I always say, and I'm sure you refer them the same advice, is to talk to your transfer counselor early. talk to people on campus. Like here at ECTC, you have people like yourself. You also have Tori Murley, who is the transfer coordinator downstairs. You have people here who are ready to help you and listen and make a pathway for you. You just have to take advantage of that. They can't force you to take any information, although their information is great. But I think, too, just making sure that you talk to those institutions before you get too deep in your time at ECTC or whatever school you're at, making sure that you have those conversations early is key.
Definitely. And so making sure that you're aware of what's going to be required for your program. I mean, a lot of people don't kind of take into consideration that if your program is selective admission, you're going to need to do a paper. You're going to need to compile transcripts. You're going to need to get a lot of information together in a relatively short amount of time, depending on when you're applying, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's great that people would know about Bellevue and have access to your services, and then have you there to kind of walk them through that. That's awesome. And so that goes for a lot of schools too. I mean, WKU has a transfer advisor on campus, I believe, or somebody that you can be connected to help streamline that process. And there's just so many different institutions that you should look at. I mean, we love our in-state schools. We love our universities here. But, I mean, times are changing and options are expanding, you know, and people are, I think, education especially, are starting to recognize that, you know, not everybody is able to go to campus, live in the dorm, you know, take classes, work part-time, things like that. I mean, it's so much more nowadays with, you know, and especially I think COVID brought that to a screeching light.
It did. It really did.
Where it just kind of was like, it's not working. And so, you know, it's good to know that Bellevue has that real flexible option for the students who maybe need a little bit more non-traditional perspective.
Yes, and I know I mentioned before, like how if I know a student really isn't set up for success with us, I'll let them know that up front, because obviously not every school fits every person.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a Cinderella shoe, you know, like not every school is going to be the perfect fit for a student, and that's why it helps to look at so many options, and you have a million transfer counselors who are ready to help you. But also, we do have, with our partnership where I'm located here on campus, students can actually use the open computer labs here at ECTC if they don't have that resource at home.
Absolutely.
So even with COVID and how crazy it is, they still have open computer lab hours. There's still the opportunity to go and have those resources. So I encourage a lot of students to do that, because you never know when your computer is just going to die.
Absolutely.
Or maybe your kid's going to knock it over and spill something on it. Like, anything can happen, so we understand that and we try to accommodate it as much as we can.
Well, that's fantastic. And so tell me a little bit more about this transfer week. You kind of mentioned it in the beginning, and so I'm excited to know what that kind of looks like and what resources are available.
Yes, it is awesome. I've actually already had one student reach out to me throughout all this. So KCTCS is offering some transfer options this week for all KCTCS students, where today and tomorrow they can go on to different school channel things on Teams that they can add onto. There's an internal site that they can check out, and they can go check out any school that they're interested in. Then Wednesday, Thursday, they're going to be able to live chat with whatever counselor they are interested in. So some have already started utilizing that tool, which is great. And then Friday, they're able to speak with their local transfer rep from their school. So ECTC Tori Murley, they would talk to them on Friday, and they're encouraged to kind of make a pathway with them.
Oh, fantastic.
And aside from that, there's a million other schools doing all kinds of stuff this week, just because it is National Transfer Week. So Bellevue, we have different open houses this week that are all virtual. So we have one today at 5 o'clock. We have another one tomorrow at, I believe it's at 2. There's a million different times that they can sign up for. And I can also leave contact info at the end of this if they're interested in signing up. But we have them going on every day this week, so students can come and get a full presentation of what we have, rather than just looking through the internet and finding something on there.
Absolutely. And so it's a really great opportunity, and I highly encourage you all to check it out. I mean, having the ability to ask questions and get, you know, live feedback and things like that, you can't beat that. You can't beat the opportunity to ask about programs and get that more concise information that's going to help you make those informed decisions. So we highly encourage you to reach out to Bellevue. This is Miss Courtney Sutherland, and she has been fantastic today. She's given you all the information you need to know about Bellevue and how you can transfer there. Some really great tips and tricks about transferring and kind of how to streamline that process. If you have any other questions, where can they reach you?
So they can reach me at my cell phone number, which is 270-816-4724, or they can reach me through email csutherland, so CSUTHERLAND @bellevue.edu. And I will say, too, just to highlight some of the programs that we have, so you guys know if this might fit you or might not, We focus on a lot of high degree programs. So these are jobs of the future. These are jobs over the next 10, 20 years. These are good job outlooks for that market. So we're trying to make employees that are going to fill those positions. So our biggest programs are typically business, IT, criminal justice, a lot of things in that realm. And pretty much you're not going to find underwater basket weaving on there, but you will find something that is going to work with you and make sure that you're going to be able to get into the job market once you're out.
Gotcha. And so how, just as another question to kind of flesh out the end of our episode here, how does Bellevue really encourage employability? I mean, are they taking steps to, put students in positions where they're going to be employed later on and they're not going to find that, suddenly their degree isn't applicable to something? Are they really, I guess my question is, does Bellevue focus on that, making sure that there's sustainable careers?
Yes, and I think that that's something that has set Bellevue apart from a lot of other schools, is because we want students to earn degrees. We won't give it to them, but we want them to earn degrees in fields that are going to set them up for success. Now, obviously, there's never a guarantee that they're going to go into a certain career, because once you have the degree, you have to take that next step and apply somewhere. But with that, we always like to make sure that we're setting them up to where the job market is going to be there for them, and they're not going to take a degree that isn't really going to benefit them later on.
Gotcha.
And we also have some tuition assistance programs with some different industries. So an example of that, one of our big programs is hospitality management, which is actually hard to find here in the state of Kentucky. If you look at a lot of the different schools, it's hard to find one, let alone one that's online.
True.
So with that hospitality management, there are a few different industries like Hyatt Hotels, Disney, that we partner with to make sure that their employees can come to us for that degree, and they're paying for their degree.
That's fantastic. Oh,
Yes.
you can't beat that, getting that paid for.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And I'm sure that you guys have mentioned that to students too before, is if you can get your employer to pay for your school,
Absolutely. That is the way to go.
do it. I mean, it's something they're offering, check into it. And honestly, I've had some students who have looked at a job specifically for the benefits of getting it paid for. A job is more than a paycheck.
Truth.
Look at all these benefits, look what you can get with it, and then I will help you get to the point where you can get the bachelor's degree to get out there.
Absolutely. And so, like we said, please contact Miss Courtney Sutherland if you'd like more information about Bellevue. And I hope that today was informative. Hope you check out Transfer Week and all the really great resources that they have available. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly Sexton with Abound Credit Union, inviting you to make more possible with your money. You can increase your credit score and get lower loan rates. How? By raising your financial IQ. Abound's Chief of Lending, Chuck Eads, is hosting a free 30-minute credit and lending workshop Tuesday at 11:30. So check your email for the invitation, and we'll see you there.